Hi, Archie.
Hi, Babutu Pape.
How are you today?
Forgot to set my second name.
AKA. How are you today?
Good.
Good.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Fabulous. What do you have there? That's not English. What's it about?
My mom's book.
Oh. I can't read it.
You buy tea for Kristen, right?
Yes, I did. But today we had a lot of errands to do on our way home from school. We stopped at the grocery store to get cereal. We stopped at the health food store to get milk and eggs. We stopped at the bookstore where you can get books to help you study for tests at school, to get a couple of those books. And then we got a tea all on the way home in less than 1 hour. So we were zipping along, very thankful that I could find parking so easily at every one of these places. Okay, so pretty exciting place. Here we are in the book. I mean, look what happened yesterday. Jigsaw found the necklace in the hole in the tree, and then a scarecrow started walking toward him. Now, if this happened during the daytime and it was bright and sunny outside, or if he had Mila with him, then maybe he would not have gotten so scared. But on the page before, actually 2 pages before, right here, the author used a lot of words to help us, the reader, realize kind of what this picture looks like. The author wanted us to kind of feel like we were standing right there with Jigsaw and kind of able to not just see what this looks like, but also feel it, hear it with all of our senses. You know, think about our senses, our sense of smell and hearing and taste and touch and sight. And so she used lots of words to kind of help as many senses as possible really feel like we're right there. So starting with when we saw the evening chill that was nibbling on his ears and gloomy. So I'm going to point out the words that are, most words can, well, have I talked to you before about the word connotation? It's a very, very long word. I think we might have talked about it one time, but I will just write it down here. And this is a word that when we're learning a new word.
You told me before.
Okay, good. So when we're talking about a word, we might want to know, what is the definition? Like, what does it mean? We might talk about, does it have a literal meaning or a figurative meaning? Does it mean just what it sounds like, what it says in the dictionary, or does it have a meaning that's different from what it sounds like? But a connotation is telling us about how does it make us feel. So a connotation can be positive, and I use the plus sign to show positive. And this would mean that the word makes us feel good, like it's a good thing, or happy, or it has a good feeling for us. Then it could have a negative connotation, and I use the minus sign. And this means that it would make us feel not so good. For example, warm makes us, we like to feel warm. We don't like to feel really cold. Warm, feeling toasty warm, not too hot, but just right. That's a good feeling. But feeling like, oh, I'm so cold, I'm as cold as an ice cube, that's not such a good feeling. Or words could be right in the middle, and we call that neutral. And so the author used a lot of words to help us make a picture in our mind of what the scene at the Rigby Place is like for Rigby, so that we can feel it too, with all of our senses. And so words that she used that have kind of a negative connotation, because they're going to make us feel not so good, maybe a little nervous, maybe a little worried, maybe a little on edge, would be words like gloomy, ripped down, no one in sight, he's there all by himself, slinked, right? The author could have said that the cat just meandered across the lawn, or walked across the lawn, or even ran across the lawn, but the author said slinked, and it was a black cat on a black night, a lonely light. Lonely has a negative connotation. It makes us feel not so good. A shadow drift, old house, disappear, more gloom. Menacing has a really big negative connotation. It makes us feel like, oh, it's a little dangerous. Something's trying to hurt us. Something is not being friendly. Leafless, twisted, crippled. A dog howled. No moon.
Wait. Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Someone said if the dog howled, they must see a ghost.
Oh, is that what you have heard?
Yes.
I haven't heard that before. Well, that would be another kind of negative feeling, right? Not so good. So when we look at when we think about all of these words and kind of the picture that the author is painting in our mind with how it feels, it's cold, how it looks, it's dark and you're all alone, how it sounds, we can, it's kind of creepy, right? I mean, it's kind of a cold night, it's dark, he's there by himself, there's nobody else around, he's only like 7 years old. So I think he's going to be easily spooked. And so when he sees the scarecrow walking toward him, he really panics and feels scared. And so what does he do? He runs away. All right. Now this chapter, this is kind of funny. Do you see what this is? You know what those are? Those are fake teeth. This is called bad for business. Bad for business. Well, I called Kim's house the moment I got home. This is an expression we use in English. We say the moment I got home, or the moment I got to school, or the moment I got to my friend's house. We use this expression of the moment I got to a place. And that means just right away. I've got your necklace, I told her. Who is her?
Kim.
Who is he talking to? That's right. So he's talking to Kim. He called her house. Kim was thrilled, very excited. Mila, on the other hand, was not. Now, in English, we're going to say, comma, on the other hand, comma, if we're making a comparison. Okay, so who are we comparing? Well, we just said how Kim felt. And so now we're going to say how Mila felt. And we're doing a compare and contrast. Compare would be if they are similar, and contrast if they are different. So we're really contrasting because we're saying, on the other hand, so here is Kim feeling great. Here is Mila, on the other hand, not feeling great. So if you see someone say, on the other hand, then it's going to be different from the first one. Okay, so you'll see these two are different. So all they say is not. What does that mean? Not, it just means not thrilled. She, Mila, didn't understand why I didn't return to Kim's house. Okay, so this sentence is explaining why Mila is not happy. She didn't understand why Jigsaw was supposed to go back to Kim's house after he went to the Rigby place, but he ran home. So Mila is confused and she says, now I have to walk home alone. Mila complained. No, don't, I warned her. Call your father, get a ride, but do not, I repeat, do not walk home alone. It's too dangerous. Oh, boy, how do you think Mila feels about that? I think Jigsaw is always so calm, so cool, so collected. He's just, you know, nothing bothers him. He's like, take your time. And he's like, don't go home alone. Call your father. Do not walk home alone. So how do you think Mila feels about this?
Surprised.
Surprised and confused. Dangerous? What's going on, Jigsaw? Mila asked. You sound strange. That's true, he does. Just promise me, I urged. This word urge is like begging. It's like, please, 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 please. He says, just promise me that you won't walk home alone. Mila groaned and grumbled and finally promised. Good, I said with relief. Phew. I will explain it all tomorrow. So he left Mila confused. He did not explain on the phone. I didn't say much during dinner. Not that anyone cared. That means his family was not paying any attention to the fact that he wasn't saying very much or talking. At my house, there's always somebody yapping, just going at dinner, going. Usually his grandmother, who they call Grams. She talks so much. Grams, all right, he's going to make a joke. Okay, just a minute. But first we're going to see his grandmother. So this is his grandmother. This must be his father. And here's Jigsaw. It's nice to see that he takes his hat off during dinner, hangs it up on his chair. Okay, let's see what joke he makes. He says, she, his grandmother, talks so much that she has to give her teeth a rest. And she does. Every night she leaves them in a glass jar with fizzing bubbles. In the morning, Grams pops her teeth back in and starts chattering all over again. So this here is looking at his grandmother's teeth. So these right here, those are called dentures. And they are, you have them for the top of your mouth and for the bottom of your mouth, and they're just all the teeth. So someone who wears dentures does not have any teeth in their mouth, and they're just going to pop these into their mouth, and that will be their teeth. But every night they need to take them out and clean them. And how they do it is they put it in this glass of water, and then they add this tablet that as soon as it's like adding baking soda and vinegar. As soon as you put it in, it goes bubble, 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 fizz, fizz, fizz. And all that bubbling and fizzing will clean all of the dirt off of the dentures. So then in the morning, when they get up, they just take them out of the cup, rinse them off, pop them in their mouth. So his grandmother wears dentures. That's what he's saying. But his joke is that she talks so much, she needs to give her teeth a rest, like they're tired. And so she takes them out and puts them in the cup of water at night. So he's being silly. Like Dad says, Grams gives those choppers a workout, which is kind of making fun of the grandmother a little bit, but I don't think he's trying to be mean. So he's basically saying the choppers are the teeth, because we use our teeth to chop on food, to bite food. And so he calls the teeth her choppers, and giving them a workout would be just talk. He goes, they must get tired. I don't know, they're being kind of silly. Grams, his grandmother, moved in with us when I was 4 years old, back when Grandpa passed away. So he had a grandma and a grandpa. His grandpa died, and then Grandma moved into their house. I loved listening to her stories, especially tonight. It almost took my mind off the scarecrow. Almost. This is really interesting right here, because, we've talked about the paragraphs and margin, right? And so we can draw a line down the margin. And then when we draw a straight line down, that's called the margin. That's the straight line that goes down the left edge of the page. We can also find the paragraphs, right? Because there's a space. So there's a paragraph, and there's a paragraph, and there's a new paragraph, and there's a new paragraph. And down here is a new paragraph. And we know that those spaces are called indents. And they're very important because they help us find new paragraphs. And we like to find new paragraphs, especially when people are talking to each other, and it helps us see when the person who's talking is changing and becoming someone new. But what I want to point out here is this right here, this word is the only word in the paragraph. I can't see the green very well. Because look, there's an indent right here, which means this is a new paragraph. And there's one word and then a period, which is not even a sentence. And then there's another indent to start another new paragraph. So this word is the only word in the paragraph, and it's just one word, and it's not even a sentence. Do you know why the author would do that? The author just wants us to really notice it. The author is just making a really big point. This is probably the biggest point on the whole page, right? I mean, all of this stuff about his grandmother and dentures and cleaning her teeth and talking a lot and his grandpa passing away, none of that is important. None of that has to do with the story. But what's important is that Jigsaw is freaked out about that scarecrow, and his mind has been on the scarecrow, right? He ran home. He ran straight home. He did not go back to Kim's house. He did not go walk home with Mila. He just ran straight home. And so he's still like, he hasn't even talked about it, right? He hasn't said much at all. Didn't talk to Mila about it. He's not talking to anyone.
But he will talk to his brother Daniel and Nick tonight.
Yes, you're going to see him talk to them, but I'm not sure he's going to really explain to them. We're going to read that next. So we'll see what all he says. But the important part of this page is that his mind is on the scarecrow. And the reason why he appreciated his grandmother talking and telling her stories is because it almost took his mind off of the scarecrow. And when we use this expression, to take your mind off of something, that means you're busy thinking about something, and then something else happens, and then you stop thinking about the first thing because the thing that just happened or that you just heard is more important, or something that you're going to think about instead. So, for example, if we're really worried about something and we say, well, I'm going to take my mind off of this worry by watching a movie or reading a book, right? So watching a movie or reading a book or playing a game or talking with a friend, that can take your mind off of the other thing that you are worried about. But then comes this one-word paragraph. And this is important because it tells us his grandmother's stories did not completely help. This says almost, not completely. So he's still worried about the scarecrow. He's still thinking about the scarecrow. It's still there in the back of his mind. So after dinner, I knocked on Daniel and Nick's bedroom door. After dinner, Nick lounged on the top bunk. So Nick and Daniel have bunk beds. Do you know what bunk beds are? Right, Kristen has bunk beds. It's the bed on top, one on the bottom and one on the top. So Nick was on the top bunk reading a book called Owls in the Family. This is one of the reasons why, what color should I use here? This is one of the reasons why an author will use italics. Remember, the italic writing is when the typing is kind of wavy or wiggly and it looks like the letters are going to kind of fall over. And there's a couple different reasons to use italics, but one is if you are saying the name of a book, the title of a book. So Nick was reading Owls in the Family by Farley Mowat. Do you think it's important that we know the name of the book that he's reading? No, it's not important. The author will sometimes give some details that are not important, and they make the story interesting. It's just that we always have to be thinking about, is this important or is this not important, right? So we can read it and find it interesting, but we can also say, okay, but not important. Daniel was studying his bank book, adding numbers on a piece of paper. "What's up, worm?" he said. Why do you think he calls Jigsaw a worm? Jigsaw is not a worm, he's a person. Why do you
Because
think?
today morning when Daniel and Nick put the leaves inside his underwear, he was.
That's great thinking. So worm is sometimes a nickname that, you know, maybe with brothers and sisters, especially boys, I think they might kind of call each other just to be teasing, not to be mean. And so remember, Daniel and Nick are trying to have a business of raking leaves, and so they're trying to make money. And so that's why Daniel is interested in looking at his bank book. That tells him how much money they have in the bank. He's adding up numbers on a piece of paper. I plopped on the floor cross-legged. You won't believe what happened to me. Oh, you're right, he does tell them. Because here it says, I was right, they didn't believe me. So we have to make an inference because right here, Jigsaw says to them, you won't believe what happened to me. And then right after that, it says, they didn't believe me. So something happened in between. Something happened in between this and this. Because number one, Jigsaw says, you're not going to believe what happened to me. And then number two, he says, they didn't believe me. So what happened in between those two sentences?
Jigsaw taught them.
Yes, he told them the whole story. And they didn't believe it. Now, here he says, well, paint me blue and call me a smurf. I think it says smurf. Yep. So Jigsaw is not the only one in the family that likes to play with words and be silly and teasing and find words to be kind of funny. So this idea of paint me blue and call me a smurf is his brother trying to be funny. A smurf. Let me show you a picture of a smurf. Okay, so this is a smurf. It's from kind of an old cartoon. And so when his brother says, well, paint me blue and call me a smurf, he's kind of saying, I don't believe it, right? I'm not a blue person. I'm not a smurf, right? You want me to, you know, if we're going to pretend, I might as well be a smurf. So he's by saying that, he's like, yeah, that's a ridiculous story. I don't believe it. And the other word that helps us know that Nick doesn't believe it is here the word scoffed. So remember, after somebody is talking, right? So here he's talking. This tells us that he just finished saying that, and now he's going to start saying this. But how he said it is right here, right? So this is a word that means said. But the author can pick a different word besides said that tells us how do they sound? How are they feeling? What kind of mood are they in? Are they being nice? Are they being mean? Are they talking loud, quiet? So the word that an author uses here can give us a lot of information. And scoffed is kind of a mean word. It means that the person who's talking is making fun of the person they're talking to and kind of saying, I don't believe it. And then he adds, Jigsaw has lost his marbles. Well, lost his marbles is another expression we have in English that means he just lost his mind. He's not making any sense at all. He's gone crazy. And so it's another kind of, well, you can say it in a way that's making fun of someone in a mean way, or you can say it in a way that's just being teasing. It depends on who you're talking to and how much they trust you, or how close you are as friends or as family, and if they can really tell that you're teasing or not. If the person you're talking to is not someone who can tell that you're teasing, then you should not say that. All right, well, we're going to stop here. And when we come back, we will see what Daniel and Nick are going to do about this. All right, and then we'll move on to the next day at school when Jigsaw fills Mila in.
Nick will tell Jigsaw to tell them again.
All right, so long.
No, wait. So long, Jigsaw Jones.
Bye, Archie.
Bye-bye.